guys, it's Tundrum here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you my Korvold Giant Commander deck. Now this deck is relatively cheap to build, it's extremely fun to play, and it is very powerful. It's a great deck. It's relatively easy to pilot. There is a slight difficulty, I'd put it intermediate difficulty, but yeah, pretty much anyone can pilot it. Okay, so let's get into the commander, Korvold. Korvold Fae King. He's a dragon. He reads 2 and Jund colors for a 4/4 legendary creature, Dragon Noble. Then he says, when he enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent, which seems bad, but then it says, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you put a 1/1 counter on Korvold and draw a card, plus he's a 4/4 body with flying. Now Korvold is really powerful. He's probably one of the new best, if not the best, sacrifice commander now. He's got the ability to become massive whenever you sack stuff and draws you heaps of cards. He's really powerful, and remember, cards in our deck that say sacrifice this, or have the word sacrifice on them, might not seem as good, but remember, Korvold's our commander, so a lot of them have insane value. Now this video is going to be split into 4 sections: creatures, spells, utilities, so things like planeswalkers, artifacts and enchantments, and mana base. Without further ado, let's get into it with section 1, creatures. First up we have Viserys here. Viserys is a solid creature. It's a 1/1 1/1, and it says you can sack any creature to scry 1. Great card. Sylvan Safekeeper, it's also a 1/1 1/1, but this you can sacrifice a land to give one of your creatures Shroud until end of turn. This is really good with Korvold, protecting him when he's massive and gets a bunch of sack triggers. Sometimes you just sack your lands for fun just to get Korvold triggers. Carrion Feeder. It's a 1/1 1/1 that can't block, but then it says you can sacrifice any creature to put a 1/1 counter on it, which is really good. Once again, Korvold triggers. If you've got heaps of tokens sitting around, it can get massive, and we have a lot of ways to generate tokens. Priest of the Forgotten Gods. This card's insane. It's a 2-mana 1/2 human cleric, and it says tap and sacrifice 2 other creatures, and any number of target players each lose 2 life and sack a creature, and you get 2 mana and draw a card. This is insane, busted card, and you need to be running it. Next up we've got Zulaport Cutthroat. This is a 2-mana 1/1 human rogue ally, and it says whenever it or another creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. Because we're a sack deck, we're going to have heaps of creatures dying, so this can deal massive damage and keep us alive very easily. Great card. Sakura Tribe Elder. Really powerful ramp card. It's a 2-mana 1/1, and you can sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card and put it into play tapped. This wouldn't seem too OP, it is really good though, but it says sacrifice, so you get all those Korvold triggers. Great card. Blood Artist. Pretty much just a better Zulaport Cutthroat. It's a 2-mana 0/1, but it says whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, including your opponents, because it says any creature, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Really solid card. Catacomb Sifter. I cannot tell you how good this card is. It's a 3-mana 2/3 Eldrazi drone, and then it says when it enters you get a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion that can sag itself to add a colourless. This alone is already really good in our deck, like insane. But then it also says whenever another creature we control dies, scry 1. This is just busted. Next up we've got Wood Elves. 3-mana 1/1, searches for a forest when it enters and puts it into play. This isn't too OP, but once again, it's a good ramp card, and it gives us a body to sacrifice later on, and a 1/1 saw 1/1, decent. Next up, we've got Judith, the Scourge Diva. Judith is really good. She's a 3-mana 2/2 human shaman, and she gives all our other creatures an extra attack. Plus, she says whenever a non-token creature we control dies, she deals 1 damage to any target. This just deals huge amounts of damage, really solid card. Next up we're running Burnished Heart. Burnished Heart's a great ramp card. It's a 3-mana 2/2 artifact creature elk, and then you have the ability to pay 3 mana and sacrifice it. Remember, sacrifice is really good in our deck. And it says search your library for 2 basic land cards and put them into play tapped. This is ramp, sacrifice triggers, and it helps fix our mana. Great card. Next up we've got Tireless Tracker. This card is very, very powerful. It's a 3-mana 3/2 human scout. And then it says whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we get to investigate. And then it says whenever we sacrifice a clue, put a 1/1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Investigating creates a clue artifact, which you can pay 2 mana to sack it and draw a card, which is insane. It gets sacrifice triggers, draws a card. When we have Korvold, that's 2 mana to draw 2 cards and put a 1/1 counter on Korvold. Great card. And a 1/1 on Tireless. That's just OP. Next up, we've got Ramanap Excavator. 3 mana 2/3 Naga Clear, and it lets us play land cards from our graveyard. You might be saying, what's the point in this? We're not really a land deck, are we? But we often get to sacrifice a lot of lands with Korvold, so being able to play them all back is really powerful. Next up, we have Eternal Witness. It's a 3 mana 2/1 human shaman, and then when it enters, we return any card from our graveyard to our hand. Great card, most commander decks should be running it. Pawn of Ulamog, solid card. It's a 3 mana 2/2, and when it says whenever it or another non-token creature we control dies, we create a 0/1 colourless Eldrazi spawn that says sack it to add a mana to your mana pool. This is really busted, gets us so many things. So all the creatures, whenever we're sacking one, we then get the Scion and then get to sack that again. So essentially we get 2 sacrifice triggers. So you sack a creature with Korvold, that means you get to draw 2 cards, put 2 1/1 counters on Korvold and get a colourless mana. Busted. Next up, we've got Plague Crafter. 3 mana 3/2. When it enters, each player sacks a creature. Each player who can't discards a card. Solid card. Next up, we've got Fresh and Bronchiton. A 3 mana 3/4 dinosaur, and then we can pay 1 and sack it to destroy any artifact or enchantment. This can be super powerful, as it sacks itself, which is a sack trigger, and it destroys artifacts and enchantments, and it's solid stats. Next up, we have Mayhem Devil. Now, this card is really good. It's a 3 mana 3/3 Devil, and it says whenever any player sacrifices a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. As well as us sacking a heap of things, there's a lot of sack things in Commander. Your enemy might be sacking a fetch land, or they might be playing everyone sack a creature spell. This can just do so much damage over the course of a game. It can get 10, 15, 20, sometimes even like in the 3-digit number. No, probably not that much, but a lot of damage. Next up, we've got Pitiless Plunderer, a 3 mana 1/4 that gets us treasure. Whenever a creature we control dies, is busted. Treasures, once again, you can sack them to add a colourless, which is really powerful in our deck, getting us a 1/1 counter and drawing us a card and a mana. Really good. Smothering Abomination, it's a 4 mana 4/3 flying. It does say at our upkeep we have to sack a creature, which is actually kind of good anyway. And it says whenever we sack a creature, draw a card. This is letting us draw. So when at the start of your upkeep, you sack a creature, draw 2, and put a 1/1 in Korvold, and then you go to attack with Korvold, draw another 2, and it's just drawing 4 extra cards a turn with this is insane. Next up, we've got Sifter of Skulls. This card's busted. It's a 4 mana 4/3, and it says whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we get a 1/1 Scion that we can sack to add a colourless. Really powerful, heaps more sack effects, a lot like Pawn of Ulamog, really busted. Falcon Wrath Noble, really good. 4 mana 2/2 flying, and then it says whenever another creature dies, the opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. Really great card, just slightly worse Blood Artist pretty much. Next up, we've got Yawgmoth, Framphysician. This is a 4 mana 2/5 legendary creature, human, with protection from humans, and then it says you can pay 1 life, sack another creature to put a -1/-1 counter on target creature and draw a card, which is really solid. And then it also says we can pay 2 mana and discard a card to proliferate. Busted card. Next up, we've got Solemn Sim, auto include. Next up, we've got Whisper, Blood Lutrugist. Busted card, 4 mana 2/2, and we can tap it and sack 2 other creatures to return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. Busted card, absolutely insane. We need to be running it. Mirren of Clan Neltoth, it's a 4 mana 3/4 legendary, and it says whenever another creature we control dies, we get an experience counter, and then end step, it pretty much says return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, but if its CMC is less than the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Busted card, insane. You may think this is only good as your commander, but no, it's insane in the main deck too. Next up, we've got Mazoret, Kroll, Death Priest. This card's busted. It's a 4 mana 2/2 flying, legendary insect shaman. And then it says whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. This says we're often getting like 3 1/1 counters on all our creatures a turn. This is absolutely insane. This card's just GG. It's just so busted. Next up, we've got the Gitrog monster. 5 mana 6/6 legendary creature, Frog Horror. with Death Touch, and it says at our upkeep, sacrifice a land if we can't sack the Grip-Rog monster, and we can play an additional land on our turns, and it says whenever a land's put into our graveyard from anywhere, we draw a card. So this means whenever we sack a land from Korvold, we draw 2, it's drawing us an extra card on our upkeep, we can play extra lands, it's just really busted. Grip-Rog's like insane. Next up, we've got God Eternal Bontu. 5 mana, 5/6 legendary creature zombie god, and then it's got menace, and it's got that god ability when it dies, put it into library food from the top, so it can pretty much never die. And it says when it enters, sack any number of permanents, and we draw that many cards. With Korvold, that's drawing double that many cards. Imagine if we had like that, Korvold, Gitrog, and what's the other one? I can't think of it, but the other one, no, Smothering Abomination. And then you play this, and then you sack 4 things, and then you get like 16 cards. It's insane, busted. Next up, we've got Titania, Protector of Argoth. 5 mana, 5/3, and it says when it enters, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then it says, I think when you sack a land, you get a 5/3. Insane card, really busted. Next up, we've got Sidisi, Undead Vizier. It's a 5 mana 4/6 legendary creature zombie naga, and then it says when it enters, you may sack a creature, and if you do, you get to search for any card and put it into your hand. Insane card. Next up, we've got this massive spider. It's a 6 mana 5/6 reach, and it says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you get a 1/1. This is often like 3 or 6 spells a turn. And they're like table rotation they're playing, which just gets you like 6-7 spiders. It's insane. Next up, we've got Izoni, the Thousand-Eyed. 6 mana, 2/3 legendary creature. And it says when it enters, you get a 1/1 for each creature card in your graveyard, which is really powerful. It can get you so many 6, 7, 8 insects. And then it says you can pay 2 mana and sack a creature to gain 1 life and draw a card. Really busted. Next up, we have Avenger of Zendikar. This is insane. It's a 7 mana 5/5. It says when it enters, you get a 0/1 for each land you control, which is really good already. And then it says whenever we play a land, we get a 1/1 counter on all of those 0/1s. Just busted. This card's insane. Next up, we've got Butcher of Malakir. It's a 7 mana 5/4 not legendary creature vampire, and then it has flying, and then it says whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. This is busted. Whenever we're sacking something, they all sack something. Just wins you the game if you play this, pretty much. Okay, that was the end of the creature section. Now we're into section 2, spells. First up, we have Crop Rotation. Crop Rotation is really good. 1 mana, we sack a land and get a search for a land and put it into play. Helps fix our mana, and it reads Sacrifice, so we get that Korvold trigger if we've got a Korvold. Really good. Next up, we've got Regrowth. Busted card. 2 mana, return something from a graveyard to a hand. Really good. Pretty much an auto-include anyway, but extra good in our deck. Terminate. Busted Rakdos removal. 2 mana instant, destroys any creature. It can't be regenerated. Great card. Next up, we have Artifact Mutation. It's a 2 mana instant that destroys an artifact, and it can't be regenerated. And then you get X 1/1s, where X is that artifact's mana cost. This often destroys an artifact and gets you 6 or 7 1/1s. That's just insane. So many sack bodies, such great value on this card. Next up, we have Primal Growth. It's 3 mana and kick a sack a creature. You search your library for basic and put it into the battlefield, but if you sacked it, you get 2. So this is essentially 3 mana, sack a creature, get 2 lands. Busted card, really good. Next up, we have Growth Spasm. It's 3 mana, searches for a basic land and puts onto the battlefield tapped. Really good. And we get a 0/1 Eldrazi Spawn, which are great in our deck. Next up, we have Force of Vigor. Busted card. 4 mana instant, destroys up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments. And if it's not our turn, we may exile a green card from our hand rather than play this spell's mana cost. Really busted, great card, great removal. Next up, we have Decimate. This card's kind of just an auto-include in any Gruul deck. 4 mana and it destroys target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. Great 4/1 there. Next up, we're running Dread Return. Dread Return is really busted. It's a 4 mana sorcery that gets us back any creature from our graveyard to the battlefield, which is already really good. And then it says you can flashback it by sacking 3 creatures, which is really busted. It's just like return something from the graveyard to the battlefield, and then we sack 3 creatures, which is quite good, and then we get another one back. Really good. Next up, we're running the Bacon to the Pie. It's a 4 mana instant that destroys a creature and gets a food. It pretty much just says destroy a creature and create an artifact that does nothing, but that's still really good, gives us extra fodder to sack, good card. Next up, we've got Pirate's Pillage. It's a 4-mana sorcery, and it says as an additional cost to cast it, we have to discard a card. But it lets us draw 2 cards and get 2 treasures. 2 treasures is really good. They let us sacrifice them on a stick, and we can sack them to Korvold. Great card. Next up, we're running Living Death. Living Death is really good. It says each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, which for us will be a lot, and then sacks all the creatures, which is a lot of sack triggers, so we draw heaps of cards if we've got Korvold they control, and then they get all the exile cards back into play, so we will almost always come out on top on this. Great card. Next up, we're running Taste of Death. Taste of Death is insane. It's 6 mana, and it says everyone has to sack 3 creatures, so we're getting the free Korvold triggers, and all the enemies lose 3 creatures, which is really good, and we get free foods, which are great sack fodder and can gain us a bit of life. Now we're on to section 3, Utility. I just couldn't be bothered writing Artifact, Enchantment, and Planeswalkers. It's pretty much just all our artifacts, all our enchantments, and all our Planeswalkers. First up, we're running Zoran Orb. It's a 0 mana artifact that says 0 mana sack a land to gain 2 life. You'd normally say this card's bad, but it's actually quite good, because sacking a land to gain 2 life, and if we've got a Korvold trigger, is often really good, and it's just a 0 mana artifact, which is good sack fodder if we need to. Solid card. Next up, Skullclamp. Auto include in most decks, but in sack decks it just gets even more OP. It's a 1 mana artifact, you pay 1 to equip it to something, and the creature loses a health and gains an attack, but then it says when the creature dies you draw 2 cards, which is absolutely insane. You equip it to something and then sack and draw 2, and then if you have a Korvold or something you draw another one, then equip it to something. It's just really good. Wayfarer's Bauble, 1 mana artifact, you pay 2 and crack it to get a basic and put it into play tapped. Solid card, counts as a sack, great in our deck, good for a mana fixing and ramp too. Next up we've got Phyrexian Reclamation, 1 mana enchantment, and it says 2 mana, pay 2 life to return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This lets us just have infinite cards pretty much, really good. Next up we've got Curse of Opulence. This is really good. You enchant a player, and then it says whenever another player attacks that player, they get a treasure. This is really good. It incentivizes everyone to attack that player, and it lets you create heaps of treasures, which is really good because treasures are great for us. No, gold, sorry, the same thing though. Next up, we've got Dreadhorde Invasion. This is great, gives us near infinite bodies. 2 mana enchantment, it says at the start of a turn we lose 1 life and amass 1, which means we get a 0/0, which gets a 1/1 counter. If you've already got that 0/0, it gets another 1/1. And then it says whenever a zombie we control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink. Great card. Next up, we've got Seal of Primordium. Great enchantment. 2 mana enchantment, and it says we can sack it to destroy any artifact or enchantment. Great artifact or enchantment removal, and it gets a sack trigger, which makes it even better. Overmore Mysteries. This card's insane in our deck. It's normally not that good, but in this deck it's busted. It's a 3 mana enchantment, which is whenever a creature we control dies, which we get heaps of, we get to investigate, which is really good. And then, invest clues are great for us. Plus, it says, whenever you sack a clue, you get a 1/1. This just has 3 amazing relevant words of key on it. It's really good. Next up, we've got Awakening Zone. 3 mana enchantment, and it says at the start of our turn we get a 0/1 spawn. Spawns are great in our deck, as you would have seen on a lot of previous cards. Solid card. Next up, we're running Lord Windgrace. Lord Windgrace, great in our deck, just had lots of super relevant keywords on it. Solid card. Vraska, Relic Seeker, really good. 6 mana, 6 Lordy. You can plus it to get pirates, great for sacking. Minus her to destroy creature, and we get a treasure, which is also great for sacking. And if you manage to get her ultimate, it's pretty much just destroy target player. Great card. Liliana Dreadhorde General. This card's busted. It creates us multiple zombies. It has this -4 that can make everyone sack 2 creatures, which is insane. Her ultimate kind of just, once again, eliminates a player. And then she says whenever a creature we control dies, we get a draw card. This is just busted. Garruk Cursed Huntsman. Garruk is probably one of the best cards we can get in our deck. Now, Garruk is really good because his 0 says you get 2 2/2 wolves, which is already great. But then it says when those wolves die, Garruk gets a loyalty counter. So you pretty much play them and sack them straight away. And then next turn you can ult, and then you get an emblem with all your creatures get free. So it essentially says you get 2 bodies to sack, give all your creatures an emblem permanently that says free and trample, and you still have 1 loyalty planeswalker left over, knowing this happens if he survives 1 table rotation. Great card. Now on to the final section, the mana base. First up we're running High Market, Cryptic Caves, Reliquary Tower, Grim Backwoods, Field of Ruin, and Korvold Cave as I like to call it. Now this is really good, all these lands. Cryptic Caves lets us draw cards later on, busted. Reliquary and sacks it as well, which is really good. Reliquary Tower gives us infinite hand size, so when we're drawing heaps of cards of Korvold, we don't have to discard them all. The High Market lets us sack creatures to gain life, and then triggers Korvold, just lets us sack them at will pretty much. Grim Backwards lets us sack creatures to draw cards, busted. Field of Ruin fixes our mana, destroys their lands, and is a sack trigger. And the Korvold Cave gets you Korvolds, which is really good. You just pretty much have an infinite supply of Korvolds with it. Next up, we're running all the gain life lands we can. They're all tapped for 2 colours and gain us life, like Bloodfell Caves. Really good. And then we're running the Lotus Field, which is really good. It taps for 3 mana. It does make us sack 2 lands when it enters, but this is really good because then we get 2 sack triggers off it, which is super busted. Great card. Next up, we're running all these lands here that tap for multiple colours. Also, any of these lands in the mana base here that just enter tapped, if you have something like a shock land or a land that you know is strictly better, you might as well throw that in. I just use these ones because they still work and they're a lot cheaper. All of these lands here tap for 2 colours, they're all solid mana fixing. And then Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, great card, almost every commander deck runs them. And then Phyrexian Tower lets us sack creatures to get 2 mana, really busted land. When we've got the rest of the common tap for 2 colour lands, and Memorial to Folly. This is a great land. It does enter tapped, but it lets us sacrifice itself, which is really good, to return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand, which is really good. And then we've got 7 swamps and 4 mountains, just fixing in the mana base, basic lands, you need them. And then finally, OP card, best in our deck, 6 forests. Great card. Yep, that was pretty much my list. Hope you guys enjoyed. Videos like this take a long time to make, so if you want to see more from me, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. And yeah, peace out.